Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense here on YouTube. Today we just have a quick update on the Rittenhouse trial and some of the prosecutorial antics. I'll have more in just a moment. A prosecutor has a duty to do justice and to seek justice. He doesn't have a duty to get a specific conviction. He has a duty to do the right thing. This is well known and well appreciated by ethical prosecutors throughout the country. There are even rules, particularly the rules of professional conduct in Wisconsin, that essentially say that the prosecutor has to balance his duty to protect the public and also to protect the innocent. And so I'm not going to go into all of the rules and all of that thing right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday in the trial where the prosecutor crossed the line twice. As the judge made very clear, it has long been the case that a prosecutor can't comment on a defendant's right to remain silent. He can't say things like, well, he had a chance to tell his side of the story, but he didn't. He didn't tell the cops anything. He can't say that. And the reason he can't say that is because it is effectively indicting him for using a right granted to him by the Constitution. And case law from the United States Supreme Court on down through all of the state Supreme Courts forbid that kind of invocation of criticism of the right to remain silent. So at the very beginning of his cross-examination, he does that. And the judge warns him and says, hey, you can't do that. Stop that. Well, another principle that is long regarded as important in the law, particularly for trial attorneys, is that when you get a pretrial ruling, whether it's in a motion for a motion in limine or a motion for a protective order or a motion for a pretrial order, when you get a ruling of a court, you have to respect that ruling. In Missouri, for example, I'll talk about my practice. If you get a motion in limine ruling that says you can't do this. I had a case once where I felt like a nursing home had essentially stolen this woman's will to live. They had destroyed it by their maltreatment of this woman. She went over 26 days without even seeing a nurse. So I took that to the judge and I said, I want to introduce evidence that it essentially destroyed her will to live. And he refused to allow me to do that. He said, no, I am not going to let you do that. I think that's inappropriate. Suffice it to say, I disagreed with him, but I respected the ruling. But in Missouri, there is a rule that says unless the judge actually prohibits you from introducing the evidence at trial, you don't have a leg to stand on appeal. So when it came time for me to ask those questions, I went to the court and I said, I need to make my record, and I did it outside of the hearing of the jury, and I said, I want to ask these questions, and I went through the questions. And the judge said, I understand your rationale, I understand your reason for doing this, but the answer is still no. So at that point, I tried my case throughout the rest of the case. I wound up losing the case. We did not wind up appealing the case. But the bottom line was I followed the rules. Now, I had a judge very much like the judge in this case, meaning he was not a judge who favored one side or the other. He was a judge who played it straight down the middle. And he was very fair. And so it really was not asking a whole lot for me to respect that ruling. And so I did. Lawyers do that every day. Only lawyers who are what I would call angle shooters, they're always looking for an edge, only those are the only lawyers who ever get close to crossing that line. And here, the prosecutor, Binger, in this case, said he was well aware of the court's prior rule, but he felt that the court had left the door open. Well, when a court leaves the door open, what it means is you come to me and you ask, you say, this evidence has come in and I believe it opens the door. Then we talk about whether or not you get to introduce your evidence. And in that particular case, there was nothing that the judge had heard that had changed his mind. But at the very least, the prosecutor had a duty, an ethical duty and a legal duty to come and ask him. And as a result, he drew an objection and he drew a very stern rebuke from the bench. This kind of conduct is not the kind of conduct you usually see from prosecutors. Prosecutors usually play it straight down the line, because at the end of the day, their salary doesn't go up or go down based on whether they get a conviction or not. They get paid the same whether they win or lose. And they don't have an economic interest. The only interest they have is doing justice. This has been a case where justice has simply not been done. Every piece of evidence that came in from the prosecution substantiated the defendant's case, that it was completely and absolutely a case of self-defense. The fact that the prosecution has failed to realize this, and in fact, the fact that they brought this case at all, filing it 48 hours after the shooting, when they did not have any of the facts or any of the witness statements, that should tell you something. And it should also tell you something that they asked witnesses to change their statements. They asked that photographer to change his statement, to add to his statement, and he wouldn't do it because he didn't think that was right. I have to tell you, I have never seen in a courtroom a lawyer get busted for trying to add to a statement. And I think the reason the judge did not rebuke him there and then for what had happened is that the jury heard all of that, and the jury can draw their own conclusions. This is the United States. We don't have political prisoners. And Kyle Rittenhouse is a political prisoner. This case should never have been brought, and the prosecutors who did should take a long, hard look in the mirror, and they should apologize to this young man because they screwed up. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you haven't already, please go over here and click on the subscribe icon so you can be notified whenever we do a video on this channel. And if you haven't already, give me a big thumbs up. It tells YouTube that this is helpful and good and reasonable content for other people. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.